in the previous we have seen like how to set up the Selenium, right? And we even saw like how we can try to start our code, right? We saw like this in the previous, like we tried to set up the Selenium with the help of Chrome driver manager, web driver manager, and then we launched the web driver, and then we entered google.com, and then we maximized our window, right? So now today let us see how to locate or how to interact with a particular element on a web page. Okay, for example, consider, let me open some website. Let me open one website called as a free uh, demo automation website. Okay, suppose if I'm considering this as a website, right? This is a demo website. Okay, so here in this particular website, if you see, we are seeing few elements, right? There is an elements here. There are elements, right? In this particular website there are elements like we have some image here, we have automation demo site, we have home, register, web table, switch to widgets. These are all elements which are present with respect to a web page, right? Consider this is our website that we need to automate, or we are trying to automate test cases that are written for this website. Okay, consider this as an example. Now what happens here is, whenever we want to interact with each element on a website, we have to locate an XPath for that. Okay, we have to locate an XPath for that. For example, if you want to enter first name, right? If you want to enter the first name, okay, consider you wanted to enter the first name, then what you have to do, we have to enter, we have to take the XPath for that particular web element, right? For example, like if I click here and I need to enter an email address, right? So I have to provide an, I have to extract the XPath for that element first. Right click, inspect. Okay, here we can find the XPath. See, each element you can find here. This is called as, whenever we want to locate an element in an automation, we have to deal with an XPath. First step in the automation will be like setting up our framework. Second will be like trying to create the XPath for the elements that we want to interact with. It is it a mandatory thing to locate an XPath? It is very mandatory for an automation. To automate a website, we have to find an XPath. Without an XPath, we cannot interact with any element present on the web page. Suppose, for example, you want to click on home. You are interacting with which element? Home element. Now you want to have an XPath for that. Only then you can try to interact. For example, you want to enter email address here, so you should be having an XPath for that particular text box. This is called as a text box, right? You need to have an XPath for that. Only then you can try to perform send case, which will enter some text. Okay, you want to click on this cricket, right? Checkbox, you have to click on this checkbox. Again, you need to have an XPath. So whatever the element that we will be interacting with a web page, we first need to have an XPath for that. Okay, so basically XPath can be found in a web page with the help of inspect, or called as developer options as well. So what we have to do, we have to first right click, inspect. Okay, then you can see the elements tab, right? There is elements tab. So in this elements tab, we need to identify the XPath for each element. For example, you need to enter the value in the email address. Then we can make use of this arrow button, which is known as an select an element in the page to inspect it. Just click on this, it will change its color. Okay, and take the cursor to the element in which you want to find the XPath. or take the cursor to the element for which you want to find the XPath. I need to find an XPath for email address. I'll scroll like this. I'll click on email address like this. Then what does this inspect element will do is it will show me the address or the element or the tag name inside the DOM structure. This is called as a DOM structure. Okay, here you can see the element that for which I need to find the XPath for, right? Here is the element. What is the element above? It is for this. It is getting highlighted here, right? It is getting highlighted. Whenever you scroll or whenever you hover over the cursor for that particular element, that particular element will be highlighted. For example, if I click on this form ID, that is getting highlighted. If I hover over on this div form group, then what is getting highlighted? See, full name, first name, last name is getting highlighted. Here if I scroll, full name star is getting highlighted. That means that is the XPath for which we have to write for full name star. Okay, or that is the tag name for which we can write the XPath for. Okay, see, let me use a magnifier and let me try to explain this. Okay, I'll make use of magnifier. Okay, and let me click somewhere here. Okay, see, here this is the elements, right? This is elements. Now this div is known as a tag. Okay, this class is called as an attribute. This call sm6 is the attribute value. Okay, form is a tag, id is an attribute, basic bootstrap form is a value of this particular attribute. Okay, see, this form is an tag, id is a attribute, basic bootstrap form is an attribute value. Again, label is a tag, class is a attribute, this is again a attribute value. This is full name. See, this full name, whatever we are seeing, this is called as a text. Okay, this is called as a text or the visible text on the UI. For example, if I consider here, see, if you consider here, this is a text, visible text to the user, or this is a visible text to the user. So that text is this full name star. That is this text. Okay, so this is text. This is tag. This is attribute. This is attribute value. Similarly, you can take any tag. For example, if I am taking div, here this is a tag. This is an attribute. This is the attribute value. This is a tag. Sorry, this is an attribute value. This is a div is a tag. Okay, select is a tag. Type is an attribute. Text is an attribute value. Okay, see, the tag will always start and it will always end. Where it is? See here. It is ending here, right? It is ending here. For example, if we consider an XPath, for example, for select, tag starts like this, select. Then tag ends like this, star select. This ends. Okay, and whatever we write between this, for example, if we are writing class, this is an attribute and it will have an attribute value ABC like this. Okay, so this is the basic idea for DOM structure. This is the basic idea for DOM structure. Okay, basic idea for DOM structure. Now this is tag, this is attribute value, and the other one, if suppose we are having anything here, that will be forming as a text. Okay, for example, we just saw here, this is also a text, right? This is also a text. So we want to enclose this particular A here. Okay, I'll try to enclose here, and whatever we'll be writing between this will be considered as a text. This is the basic layout of a DOM structure, which consists of tag, attribute name, and a text. Now, once we are done with this, Okay, so we got an idea of the DOM structure. So this is the DOM structure. So the DOM structure always starts with HTML, head, body, like that. Okay, and later it will have all other elements, as this is an HTML script. Fine. Now let us try to see what are the different types of XPath and different methods that are present in an XPath. Okay, so for that let us try to, okay, see, in Selenium, XPath is nothing but XML path language, is a way to locate elements in an HTML or XML document. Now what kind of document is this? This is an HTML document, right? This is a HTML document. The next is, it's super useful when you want to find elements that don't have easily accessible IDs or class names. Okay. Now key points with respect to XPath is XPath syntax example. We saw, right? We saw the XPath syntax example is, see, right now we saw what is a particular tag, what is an attribute, what is an attribute name. But what is the syntax for XPath? There is a syntax for XPath, that is, we have double slash tag name. What is a tag name? Tag name will be select. Then it will be having an attribute. What is an attribute? Class is an attribute. Then it will have its value. What is the value? ABC is the value. So at the rate, we'll be writing at the rate before every attribute. Okay, and we'll be writing inside this box brackets. Okay, inside this kind of brackets we'll be writing. This finds elements with a specific tag and attribute. Okay, so this is the way we have to write the XPath. Now let us see what are the types of XPath first. Okay, there are two types of XPath: absolute XPath and relative XPath. Okay, absolute XPath and relative XPath are the two types of XPath. What is absolute XPath? Absolute XPath is an XPath that starts from the root elements and goes through each node. Okay, absolute XPath starts from the root node or root element and goes through each node. So what is an absolute XPath? An absolute XPath is an XPath that starts from the root element and goes through the each node. For example, like this. Okay, for example, if I need to find the XPath for the language, what I'll do, I'll right click, I'll click on inspect. Okay, now here it is, this is the element. I'll right click, I'll make use of copy, and I'll make use of copy full XPath. Okay, control F, control V. See, this is the complete XPath, right? This is the complete XPath. Let me try to use magnifier. Okay, again. See, this is the complete XPath. You can see here HTML, body, selection, div, index 2, form, div, index 7, div, multi-select, div, index 1. A complete XPath. Okay, so we are trying to highlight this particular element, language, right? So this is a kind of XPath that is called as an absolute XPath. Absolute XPath always starts from the root element and goes through each node. That is known as an absolute XPath. Okay, the disadvantage of absolute XPath is, tomorrow if suppose we are trying to add some other element between this. Okay, see how the developer will be developing this HTML tag, HTML page. They will add like this kind of tags and they will try to insert the elements. Okay, tomorrow for example, some developer inserts some another element between this address and email address. Okay, they will insert something called as supporting address. Okay, or address number 2. If they add, then in that particular case, this absolute XPath that we have taken will be failed. It will not, we will not be able to locate that particular web element, because it should be, absolute XPath is useful only when there are no changes on the UI. There are no changes on the UI, only then. UI is nothing but user interface. Okay, This is an interface where I'm trying to interact with. I'm a user. This is an interface. This page is an interface. Okay, that is called as an user interface. Okay, I'm when we go with absolute XPath, when there is no change on the UI or the user interface, only then we can go. If suppose tomorrow someone adds one address line 2, okay, in that case whatever the XPath that we have written for this particular element to interact with, it will be failed. Then our test case will fail, right? So hence absolute XPath are not recommended for automation. Absolute XPath is an XPath that always starts from HTML or the root node. Okay, that is an absolute XPath. Now absolute XPath always starts with single slash. See, you can see single slash here, right? Absolute XPath always starts from a single slash like this. Okay, it will always start from a single slash. This is single slash. HTML complete structure. That is known as an absolute XPath. And the disadvantage is it is not stable whenever there is a change on the UI. It is not stable XPath. Now for in turn we have relative XPath. Relative XPath is an XPath that starts from the current node or anywhere in the document, and this is the preferred XPath, and it always starts with double slash. Okay, this is again a tag name, an attribute that we starts with @ and we give the attribute value. This is relative XPath. Relative XPath is the XPath which is recommended in the automation because it is to that particular element for which we are trying to interact with. It is not from the root node. How with respect to the absolute XPath. Relative XPath is to that particular element, and this is the recommended way. Okay. Now let us see how to locate or how to write XPaths. Okay, how to write XPath. Very important with respect to automation, and very important with even with respect to interview perspective of the automation, because each interviewer will be asking to write an XPath. Okay, they will just try to locate, they'll just ask that find an element for this and we have to locate. Okay, very common interview questions, and even it is common, and even it is a required thing for automation engineer to write an XPath in the framework as well to interact with each element. Whenever he or she is automating an test case, he has to take the XPath for that element for which he is interacting with on the UI test cases. Okay, so now let me try to show you how to write an XPath. For example, I need to write an XPath for email address. Okay, email address. This is the text box field for which I need to enter like this abc@gmail.com. Something I need to enter, right? This is our test case. What is our test case? Our test case is launch demo.automationtesting.in and then enter email address. Okay, in this field. Now how to write the XPath? The XPath is first we have to keep our cursor on the element for which we need to interact with. What is the element in our case? Email address. Right click. Okay, use the mouse, right click on that particular element for which we need to interact with. Then go to this inspect. So this inspect will show us or will highlight automatically that particular element. We need to interact with email address text box. Yes. So that particular field is highlighted in the DOM structure. Yes. Now let us write the XPath. We will not write absolute XPath. We will write relative XPath. What is absolute XPath? That always starts from HTML tag, whereas relative XPath to that particular element. Okay. So for that, how does the relative XPath always starts? So in order to write, once you highlight that element, press Ctrl F on the keyboard. This find by string selector or XPath will be displayed. Then in this we have to write an XPath. So for that, we have to first enter double slash like this, because the relative XPath will always starts from double slash. Okay. Then that particular highlighted element went, right, once you enter double slash. So which element we want to interact with? Email address. So take this cursor that is called as inspect element and again click on the element for which we need to interact with. This will again get highlighted. Now what is the tag name? Tag name is input. So I'll write input like this. Again it went, right? Because there are so many inputs in our form, input tags. So all those input tags will be highlighted. But we don't want all. We need one finding. See, just observe here, guys. Whenever we are writing an XPath, we should always find one of one findings here. Here, how many findings we are getting now? 12 findings we are getting. And we are interacting with fifth element. Out of 12, we are interacting with fifth element. But here, whenever we find, we should see one of one. Only then our XPath is correct. Okay. How many XPath we should find? One of one. In the case, if you want to find multiple elements, then it is fine. But if you are trying to interact with one element, then in that case, you should see here one of one. Only then that particular XPath is valid. Okay. Otherwise, it is not valid. So, how many findings we are seeing now? 5 of 12. So, our XPath is not correct. So, now again take this inspect, again click on that particular element. It will again highlight our tag. So, this is the tag that we need to interact with. Then what I will do, I will open close square brackets. Okay, I have open close the square brackets. Now, inside the square brackets, guys, observe here. Okay, inside the square brackets, I have to differentiate out of 12 input tags, I need to differentiate my email tag. So what is the unique thing that I have with respect to email address? If you see this type, here it is email, right? And next, if you see, here the type is text, placeholder, last name. Do we have that email here? No, we don't have. We still found that is a unique value with the 2. That is, type is email there, right? Here, if I click, if you see here, if you find here, see here the type is the email. So this is the unique value within that 12 findings. See, type email will be present only in the email tag. Okay. See, if I go next, do we see type email here? No. Do we see type email here? No. Do we see type email here? Yes. This is what we are interacting with. Do we see type email here? No. This is type tel or telephone. Okay. This is type radio, right? So this unique element or the unique attribute that we have, we need to pick that. So here the unique element is type. So I will take this type and I will write inside this square brackets. And whenever we are writing with respect to an attribute, we will always start with @ and then we'll write the attribute name. Attribute name is type. Okay. See, again we have 12 because @ type is an attribute which is present in all 12 fields of input tag. See, @ type, @type text, @type, input type, it is there. Now, how to make it unique? By giving the attribute value. What is our attribute value? It is email. So for that, we will make use of equals, and here we have to give single quotes. Always remember, whenever we write an XPath, we never used to write with double quotes. For the attribute value, we always write with a single quote like this. And inside that single quote, I will write the attribute value. In our case, what is the attribute value? It is email, like this. Now, how many findings we are seeing, guys? Are we seeing one of one? Okay. Are we seeing one of one findings? For our element only. It is not for other element. Consider, that is also an important thing to consider. See, here we are finding one of one, right? One of one findings. That means whatever the XPath that we have written, input, @ type, email, whatever we have written is correct, because we are finding one of one. And how I am saying it is correct? There are two things. One thing we have to consider, that we have to find one of one finding. And once you click on enter inside this text, inside this field, you should be highlighted with the element that we want to interact with on the web page. Is it getting highlighted? right? It is getting highlighted here. Just consider here. Now it is not getting highlighted. Once I click here and click on enter, it will highlight, right? Then our element or whatever the XPath that we have written is correct. This is called as a relative XPath. Now, for example, if I want to write an XPath for this language field, okay, this language, what I will do, I'll take the cursor, I'll click on the languages. It will highlight me that particular element that I need to interact with. Then what I will do, I will make use of div tag. Okay, I'll make use of div tag. So I'll copy. Then how I will write the relative XPath. First I will start with double slash. Then I will write the tag name. Then again it will go. It will show all the tags on the web page having div. So we have one of 150 findings, but I need to find the XPath for language. I'll again click here. Okay, then again it will highlight. I could see ID is the unique here. ID MSDD. See, if I go with other element, I could not find that ID MSDD. Do we have here? No. It is only container. Here it is class is equals to row. So we don't have that ID is equals to MSDD for any div tag. So what I will do, I will make use of open close square brackets. As all attributes starts with at the rate, I'll give at the rate. Then I will give the ID as the attribute. Then I will give equals. Then I will give its value, whatever the value that I have. That is MSDD. This is the value. Okay, and I'll try to remove this. Okay, MSDD is the value. So how many findings I'm getting? I'm getting one of one finding. And I'll click on enter and I will see whether my element is getting highlighted. Yes, it is getting highlighted. That means my XPath is correct. Okay, this is how we can find an XPath. Okay,